prayed for loved ones in heaven. And well, now we're going to, hello podcast people, I'm going to do the questions that people want from review assignment number 1. If you haven't sent me review assignment number 1, do that soon, because I have someone who hasn't on the podcast people. Okay, G, 2x to the negative 1, all cubed. That's it. Okay, so here you multiply the exponents. Everybody gets that, right? But the hard part is this part. It's 2 cubed. It's not 2 times 3. So multiply exponents is the rule. This is not an exponent. This is a base. So it's 2 cubed. That goes here. 2 cubed is 8. This is number 3 on the first page of review assignment number 1 on the front page. H, radical 18 plus 2 radical 10, subtract radical 18, subtract 2 radical 10. You have a choice of simplifying it first, but I notice that these radical 18s are going to cancel, so I'm not going to simplify it yet. I'm going to just distribute the negative sign and then cancel 1 radical 18, subtract 1 radical 18. And then I'm just going to collect like radicals. So you add the numbers, keep the radical, and then you just see, can I simplify the radical 10 further, which I cannot, but sometimes you can. And that's H. Anything else on that page? All right, nacho cheese. Here's N, podcast people. Just pause it there if you're still writing that down. Here comes N. It's a rationalizing question. So this is a little section we did, but this is where you find it. This is rationalize. I said simplify. I could also say rationalize. And the little trick to this one is just multiply by the radical part in the denominator, not the 5. If you multiply by the 5, that's okay. You'll just have extra reducing to do. But remember what Jesus said, thou shalt not have radicals in thy denominator, Sermon on the Mount. Holy halo. And to get rid of the radical part, you just have to multiply by the radical part in the denominator. Okay? So this one becomes a distribute question. I don't like distributing backwards, so I'm going to move this radical 11 over here and then distribute it forwards, because there is danger in distributing backwards in higher level math. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. If you distribute it backwards, that's fine, because there's no danger in this one. It's just not a good habit to get into. So this is negative radical 66, and then this is plus 2 radical 33, and in the denom you got to keep that 5 there. So that's something that sometimes students, they multiply the radical 11, but they just delete the 5. You can't delete the 5, you still need the 5 there. And then simplify the radicals if you can. Can you simplify 66? 16, 4, yes or no? I really want to, but 6 times 11 doesn't work. Technically, you could see this with the radical 33 first, the smaller radical first, but that's the perfect answer for me. But I want you to make sure, even though this one doesn't have it, we did questions where you can reduce numbers. So if this was a 56 and there was if this was a 2, and this was a 56, then you could divide the number part by 2's. But if this was a 56 and this was a radical 56, you can't cross out a radical with a number. You can only divide numbers with numbers. You can't divide radicals with radicals with numbers, and you can't divide part of a binomial. If you divide this by 56, you got to divide the first one by 56. So you can't just cancel part of the binomial. That is a big no-no. I had a question. What's up? You may. All right, people, pause that if you want. Ding, 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 ding. All right, next. What is P? I'm not going to write it down. Just here you just add exponents, so 8 to the 7th, and then there is no negative 4 or negative 4. Y to the 4th. I fear I'll be wearing glasses next year. Never. So add exponents on the A, and then you do nothing. Now let's put let's change this question to make positive exponents, because that is not positive exponents. I'll give you 10 seconds to fix that up. Make everything a positive exponent. You have to know the math karate. 1 over, 1 over. Yeah! Ooh. Someone's phone? Whose phone is this? Do I have a phone? Is this somebody's phone or did I do it in first grade? That's weird. I'll leave it there. I just don't want to step on it. I COVID it up either. Oh, I have this. Don't know. Very soon. Okay, so positive exponents means negative exponents go down to the denominator, or positive exponents, or sorry, if they're negative exponents in the denominator, they go up. Okay, so this one just simply the z part goes down, everything else stays the same. So that's positive exponents. Yep.
So you wouldn't FOIL with this?
Nope, only FOIL if it's a binomial times a binomial. So if there was addition and subtraction signs between the A's and Z's, and A's and Y's, then you would FOIL. So this is just a monomial times a monomial, just add exponents. Okay, good question. Half my nickname, y subtract 4 all squared, plus 5 times y subtract 11. I'm going to just FOIL this one in my head. I collect like terms in my head, or you can do the perfect square trinomial thing. And then distribute this, and then collect like terms. Maybe y squared subtract 3y, subtract, that's not happening for me, 35. Yay or nay? Nay? What's up, Des? 39? Thank you. That's what I got. 39. Okay, so that's that. Let's do C. So this is 2C now. It says factor. And this is a GCF question. Factor means create brackets. Take the biggest number out, the smallest exponent of x and y. How's that? And take a peek. This almost looks like a difference of squares. It's not. You can't do anything else, but if that was x squared subtract 4y squared, then you could go square root, one addition, one subtraction. So always take a peek. After you do one step, we've seen a lot of two-steppers in this room. All right, the trig doesn't seem to be hurting anyone. That's good. I want to do 5. That was the number I wanted to do. 5 is sine law. We haven't done any, but sine law is fair game on the midterm. I won't ask you the cosine law angle question because we didn't have time to do it before the Easter break. But we did do a couple of these, and let's just remind you on how to do them. 7341, A, and 8.5. And it's an easy setup. It's the angle, sine of the angle, divided by the side across from it equals the sine of this angle divided by the side across from it. So sine 41 divided by 8.5. And now what do? Cross multiply. So you get 8.5 sine 73 equals A sine 41. And now what do? Empty? Good. And what's the trick to punching this in your calculator, everyone? Close the bracket right here before you divide. So when you did that, what'd you get? Nearest 10. No units. Where is there units? In centimeters. Somebody? 12.4. Checkaroo. Yep. So, you know what my son and I do now? We go like this to each other and they go. Either we point at each other if we made a good play, or we point at the girls when we beat them in soccer. That cracks my wife up when we do it. Okay, that's it. That's review assignment 1. Let's review radicals and trig. Trig isn't going to be much of a review. I'm just going to let you look at your test. In fact, I think we'll do that first, because we need to do that. So here's your trig test. Right now, while I'm handing it out, you can work on review assignment number 2. Review assignment number 2 is due tomorrow, first thing. All right, podcast people, I'm going to pause because we're going to hand back the trig tests and they can look at them. On one of the test questions, it was find angle LKN. What question was this? 3? Okay, so angle LKN means the angle that's formed when you go from L to K to N. So you can see it's this angle here. That's what you have to find. So some of you did the hard part. You found that is 40 right here, but you have to add this square angle to it, and then so it's 40 plus 90, not 40. 40 is just this little arc right here. That's 40. It's 40 plus 90. That's what you had to do for that guy. Okay, let's pass up your trig test, please. Put your answer key on top in case you want to look at it before the exam. We'll do a couple of trig questions right now. I'm mainly on the review, so I'm looking on your own slides. So you're not excited to fish at all, okay? So when did you start boating? February. What's that? Okay. It's skiing? Okay. But you don't go in Maine. That'd be freezing, wouldn't it? Gotcha. All right, my friends. Do these 6 questions to get us working. I might as well put them on the smart board, podcast people. So let's do these as a review before we hand out the radical test. So A, x to the 1/2 times x to the 1/3. B, x to the 1/2 to 1/3. C, so triangular triangle. Find angle y, x, z. Y, x, z. 27. And this is 12.5 meters. D, another trig question. Angle 711. Not very good. size though. So 11 would be more right there. And you find x. And you know what? This one, let's just remind you, let's say to the nearest millimeter. Because that's, you don't want to lose those half marks. When I ask you the opposite thing, we usually do. So this question, nearest millimeter for D. And I also put E and F on here as well. Where really fit it. Okay, I want you to simplify this. Radical 48, square root of 48, a to the 8th, b to the 5th. These are little questions that don't forget about. And I want you to do restrictions on E. Man, some of you are going to really show me what you got on E. Because restrictions means, I'll let you look back at your notebook if you want. For restrictions in your radical notes. And F is solving this. And I will give you a hint for this one. This is the factor and branch stuff. So this one you factor it, and remember how we branched the brackets? You might not remember. Again, you can go back into your notes. That's why we're doing it now. So your final answer should be x equals 5 and x equals 10 for something like this. Like not those numbers, but your final answer. You don't just factor it. You have to tell me what values make this equal to 0. So I'll show you what we did. When we had something like this, and put 0 equal, we branched it and we did the opposite sign. So x can't equal -1. Otherwise that would equal 0. Sorry, equals number -1. And this one we took the opposite sign and the denominator is the number with x. Or you can just solve it like you did in grade 7. X plus 1 equals 0. And subtract 1 on both sides. So you can do the shortcut or the long cut. But it's something we didn't do for very long. But you might see it once. Podcast people, pause, and when you're ready, unpause. Thanks for working so hard. So can everyone look at your review questions? This one, first of all, you multiply exponents. So when you multiply exponents, it's top times top, bottom times bottom. 1/6, and if you can reduce 1/6, so if it was 2/6, you would reduce it to 1/3. Okay, you could rewrite this as the 6th root of x. It doesn't ask you to. But remember, rational exponents, 1/2 means square root. Exponent 1/3 means cubic root. This would be the 6th root of x. You don't have to write that down, but maybe let's just remind ourselves that that's the same thing as the 6th root of x. Okay, 1/1/2 is square root. 1/3 is cubic root. 1/4 is 4th root. 1/6 is 6th root. Oh, yeah, thank you, Kane, for looking at me, because I am wrong. That is the work you do for B. You have to add the exponents. Did I not say I wasn't going to make another mistake this year? Oh, you have to add exponents. I'm thinking of goldfish too much. Add fish. I didn't mean to do that. I just thought add fish. Okay, so that's cool teaching. So 1/2 plus 1/3 equals what? Good job. 5/6. You can only add fractions if they have the same denominator. So this is 3/6, and this is 2/6 if you multiply the top and bottom. So 3/6 plus 2/6 equals at the top, keep the bottom, 5/6. Now let's write this down. This is the same thing as the 6th root of x. You don't have to write this down, but sorry for full marks. But it could be transferred into this on a multiple choice, so you could get this one and still get it wrong if you don't know the denominator is the index. Denominator equals index, okay? Again, that's not a lot of time we took on that, but it's certainly part of the midterm. Okay, sorry. That was adding. This is multiplying exponents because the exponents are right beside each other. Oops. Okay, I'm going to erase all that. So podcast people, pause now if you're still writing down those two. You guys, anyone done the first two? I need some space to do C. Okay. Plus, I want to erase my mistake. Now I feel much better. C is sine law. What does sine law say? Well, we just did one. It's sine 27 divided by the side across from it equals sine of the angle we're trying to find. And this red one, y, x, z, we go from y to x to z, that's the angle that we're talking about. So we're going to find this one. I'm just going to call it angle x. So sine of x divided by 12.5. Cross multiply and work sideways, even though I don't like that. That's all I got for space. 22. 12.5 sine 27 equals bottom times top 6.4 sine x. Now we divide both by what? Do we divide by 6.4 or sine 6.4? Divide by 6.4 so that the 6.4 is canceled. The sine is part of the x. So sine x, you got to get sine x by itself before you get x by itself. I'm just going to put answer. Make sure you close the bracket. And then x equals inverse sine of answer. So round to the nearest 4 decimal places, or if you know how to use that answer key button on your calculator, I suppose I can shoot it up if it's on there, which it isn't. All right. Come on, where are you? Did that go? Did that go? Why did that go? Hello? Do. So to do that question, oh, battery calculator isn't working. Do we have any batteries? Podcast people, they are howling right now. I've never seen someone laugh so much in my entire life. Actually, I've never seen anyone laugh in my entire life. I wonder why. Okay, so to do this, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to use my answer key this time. You don't have to. You can keep 4 decimal places. So 12.5 sine 27 close bracket, after close bracket. Divide by 6.4. That equals the answer. Gotcha. And then I'm going to do inverse sine, second sine, and then use my answer key. So second negative sign is my answer key. And that is the most accurate answer. So is it 62? Did you guys get 62 when you did inverse sine of 4 decimals? Okay, because that one's close. That was like 4, 6 or something. Good. Good. Same thing, podcast people. I'm going to erase it right away. You guys, did you get all this? Remember sine law? That's the hardest one where you have to do finding an angle. You have to do inverse sine at the end. Okay, but always close bracket. And let's do D now. Come on, get rid of here. D is coleslaw. Okay. No. D, we'll stick with blue. So D is coleslaw, and it's the fun one. But don't forget, look at the formula, because the formula has positive negative on it, so you don't want to lose half those marks. 7 squared plus 11 squared, subtract 2 times 7, 11. Cos Uncle Trent. And just someone give me an answer when you punch that in your calculator. I'm not going to do it. It looks like it's going to be under 11. What is the answer? 8 decimal. Oh yeah, thank you. 8 millimeters. And then you got to put x equals 8 millimeters because it is distance or because distance is positive. I don't care. Discount the negative answer. It's not possible. We do okay with those? We just did trig, so let's talk about radicals now. Radicals. Okay, simplify and restrictions. Okay, I like to do the perfect squares first and the leftover second. If you want to break down the numbers and the a's and the b's and have 6 radical signs, is up to you. But I'm going to break up 48 into 16 times 3. And a to the 4th is actually, or a to the 8th is actually a perfect square, because a to the 4th times itself 2 times equals a to the 8th. Okay, so there's no leftover a part, but there is a leftover b part, because b to the 4th is b squared times b squared, but you have 5 b's, so 1 b has to go there. Now you square root all these, you get 4a to the 4th, b squared, and funny looking answer, but it's the right funny looking answer. Been a while since we did that. Most of them we don't have variables, but we just have numbers, so breaking up 48 is the usual question, but every third time you might have letters under the radical. And this one is just factoring some product, 2 numbers that multiply to negative 24 and add to 2. And that's usually when we're done, but now when it says solve, and it doesn't say solve most of the time, most times it says factor, you're done. But if it says equal 0 and solve, you do have to branch it now and take the opposite sign or solve it the long way. Solve each bracket equal to 0. Remember that kind of? That might be the thing you don't remember the most, because we didn't do it very often. But if you just factor it, you're going to get 1 out of 2. If it's a solve question, and it would only be a solve question one time, you have to do 2 steps. You have to factor it and give me the answer. So believe it or not, if you put 4 in here, you get 16 plus 8 subtract 24 is 24 subtract 24 equals 0. It's a solution to the system. Yep.
What about the restrictions?
Oh, thank you. Restrictions. What about the restrictions? I did. Many Easter eggs ago, I taught you this. The restriction you need to know is you can't have what for square root? You can't have negatives for square roots, and when we say that, this is what we're saying. Okay, so for square roots, this is a little review in this red box here. Square roots has to be 0 or negative, and that's a 0 or positive, and that's how we write it as a restriction. For cubic roots, what's a restriction? And see who studied this. Good try. No restrictions. Cubic roots can be negative or positive, right? You can take a cubic root of negative 8, negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. So that's the meat and potato of all the restriction questions. This one makes you think even further outside the box, because you got to go to your original question. And if a is negative, it's being raised to exponent of 8, so there'd be 8 negative signs. What would that be, positive or negative? So this is a trickier question. A can be positive or negative, because if it's negative, if a is negative, let's say it's negative 5, when you raise it to the 8th exponent, it's going to become positive. And that's fine, because it's under the square root sign. However, if you put b to the 5th and make it negative, that's going to give you a negative number, which cannot be under a radical sign unless you're in the imaginary world, imaginary numbers. So this one, you would have to say, and usually anything under the square root would be greater than or equal to 0. That's what I'll be looking at. But this one is a trickier, I'll be asking you these ones. But this one, hopefully understand that a can be positive or negative, because that would make, doesn't matter, they would still make it positive. But if b was negative, that would make this whole radical sign, square root, negative. So that means b has to be positive, which means b is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, I am fine if you put a is greater than or equal to 0 in grade 10, but I'm not going to ask you a question like this. I'm going to ask you simply this. So what are the restrictions there? X has to be greater than or equal to 0. Y has to be greater than or equal to 0, although if they were both negative, that would be fine. So it'd be more like that. So y squared is there any restrictions on y squared? If you have a negative y, u squared, it becomes positive, right? So here the answer would just be x is greater than or equal to 0. It's more of a grade 11 thing. But I just want you to understand square roots can be positive, cubic roots can be positive or negative. Anything else? No, am I taping this? I think so. 2. Yes. All right, we're taping this. Let's trig test again. I'm not going to go through. You got trig questions on your review. Some we just did a couple. We just did a couple before that. If you have any questions on trig, I got math help right now at lunch until I supervise. But let's go ahead and look at your radical test, and then I'll take questions from that and write them on the whiteboard, and we can fly through those. We still got a half an hour. That's good. Okay, let's do these questions, podcast people. The questions that are coming right from the radical test. Changing the numbers. One of the questions is right. Yes. Let's do these days. When you've done these, work on your review assignment number 2, which is due tomorrow. Send it to me, please. Email it to me. So you write as a radical for B. That's 8. C. I want this in radical form. Length of Volachuk, radical form. No decimals. His middle name is Mark. I put 2 D's. Oh, they don't know that. Okay, pause that if you're not done writing it down, and then unpause when you're ready to write down the rest. This is numerical response 1. 2 cubic root of 250. Almost a cubic root of B. Find A plus B. Response 2. Entire radical. Turn this mixed radical into an entire radical. 3 radical 6. In the form radical m, what does m equal? Pause if you haven't written all that down yet. Simplify again. You know what? Let's do restrictions on this as well. Classroom people. B is 4 radical 27 subtract 3 radical 32, subtract 6 radical 9, plus radical 450. Alright, midterm tomorrow. God bless, an awesome day! Ha ha ha. Don't forget to do review assignment number 2 on making you study.